This is 5.2. Today we're looking at negative exponents, zero exponents, and the quotient rule and using some combination of rules here. So we're going to start off with a couple examples here. And if you remember what we did before break, what you had to do right over break here, we did some simplifying with exponents here. So that's what we're going to do in A. So I have 3 to the 5th, 3 to the negative 2nd. Now remember, we can add these. When the bases are the same, we add them. So 5 plus negative 2 is 3. So that's going to be 3 to the 3rd.
Good morning. There is a 3 Jeep Sport Wrangler parked
In B, I'm going to do the same thing. 5 plus negative 7 is negative 2. Now at this point, we're going to leave it as a negative 2. But today, we'll look at what a negative exponent really does and kind of what it means here. In C, now, if I multiply these out, if I expanded these, I get 7 to the 5th, which is 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. 7 to the 2nd is 7 and 7. So what I can do is I can cross these out. When I'm multiplying, I have the same thing on the top and bottom. I can cross them out, and I get 7 to the 3rd. Now, what's the shortcut here? The shortcut, if I have 5 on top, 2 on the bottom, where do I have more of them? I have more on top. How many more? 3. I could subtract these. 5 minus 2 is 3 here. And I'm going to use that same idea here and do 7 to the 3rd. I'm going to expand it. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. And I'm going to do the same thing I did in C. I'm going to cross out ones that are the same, again, because they're multiplying. What am I left with? Well, a 1 on top, and on the bottom, 7 to the 2nd power. Now, something I want to take a look at is, what was the thing that we could kind of do in C? Subtract them. 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay. Well, 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So 7 to the negative 2nd really could be the same thing as 1 over 7 squared. In E, 7 to the 3rd over 7 to the 3rd. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Well, these are going to cancel out. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. What am I being left with? Just 1. Which makes sense. I have the same thing on the top and bottom. When I have the same thing on the top and bottom, I'm going to get 1. Now, again, I could subtract these. Well, what's 3 minus 3? That's 0. So we have the idea that 7 to the 0 is the same thing as 1. Enough. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to subtract these. Now, again, you have to be a little bit careful. Okay? Just like we did in C, just like we did in D, we could subtract them and get that. So some of the rules here that we're going to be taking a look at. Okay, we've looked at the product rule and the power rules there already. So some of the rules that we're going to be taking a look at, we've looked at the product rule already, where we add exponents when the bases are the same. The power rules we've already done. We're going to add a couple more here. The zero exponent rule, negative exponent rule, quotient rules, and negative depositive rules here. So remember when we did this? Yeah, when we are multiplying and the bases are the same, we can add the exponents. We did that just in the first example. Oh, 7 to the 3rd, 7 to the 2nd. We add them together, we get 7 to the 5th. I can do the same thing with negative exponents. 7 to the 3rd times 7 to the negative 5th is 7 to the negative 2. So positive, negative, doesn't matter. A to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. When we look back at the previous example, we had an E. Well, that was 7 to the 3rd, 7 to the 3rd. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, 7 to the 0. What was our answer that we got? It was 1 here. Negative exponents. A negative exponent, if it's on the top, it moves it to the bottom of a fraction. If it's on the bottom of a fraction, it's going to move it to the top. So if I look at D here, if I subtracted these, I got 7 and then 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Well, when we expanded that below, notice what happened. We ended up getting the answer here, 1 over 7 squared. So you don't necessarily have to do the bottom part. You can just write it 1 over 7 squared.
Biad classes, you should report to the old gym at the beginning of classes today. Again, this is Mr. Decora's intro to Biad class. You should report to the old gym at the beginning of class today. Thank you.
A lot of announcements this morning. Quotient rule, I can subtract. So just like I did in E, just like I did in C, just like I did in D, I can subtract these. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Okay. Or in C, 5 minus 2 is 3. And then it's 7 to the third. I don't necessarily have to write it out and expand it and then cross them out. I can just subtract here. The other ones, again, negative to positive. When there's a negative exponent, it goes to the bottom. If it's on the top, it goes to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, it moves to the top. So in a 5 to the negative 2, I'm going to rewrite it as a positive exponent, which is 1 over 5 squared. And I could simplify that if I wanted to, 1 over 25. In B, there's kind of two ways to think about B. Okay. One way, when I do the subtraction, 4 minus 6 is negative 2. Well, what's 7 over negative 2? If it's on top, moves it to the bottom, so it becomes 1 over 7 squared. I could have also thought of it as, oh, there's 4 on the top, 6 on the bottom. Where are there more? There's more on the bottom. How many more on the bottom? 2. When I cross them out, I get 1 over 7 squared. Either way, doesn't matter. In C, I'm going to subtract here. We have to be a little bit careful here when we have negative exponents. 4 minus negative 6. 4 minus negative 6 is 10. So we have 7 to the 10th. I could have also, well, if it's a negative exponent, it moves it. If it's on the bottom, it moves it to the top.
Gabrielle, Bencher to the office. Gabrielle, Bencher to the office, please.
So that becomes 7 to the 4th on top, and 7 to the 6th goes on top as well. Well, I can add those together. 4 plus 6, I get 7 to the 10th. So either way, I get the same thing.
Good morning. If any student or faculty member is driving a Nissan Pathfinder, license 842CKH, it's red in color, ruby red in color, if you could please come to or contact the office, that would be appreciated. Again, any staff member or student driving a Nissan Pathfinder, license 842CKH, if you could please contact or come to the office, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Also, Mr. Decora's intro to PE classes.
Holy cow, a lot of announcements.
Beginning of classes today.
So, indeed, one way I can do this is I can put in the exponent right away. Because everything is multiplying here, I can do 3 to the negative 6, 5 to the negative 3. And again, a negative exponent, if it's on the top, it moves it to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, it moves it to the top. I get 5 to the 3rd over 3 to the 6th. Another way when I have a negative exponent is I can flip it right away. I could write this as, the negative would flip it, 5 to the 1st over 3 to the 2nd, and then to the 3rd power, and then put the 3 in. It's really up to you. It's your choice. You get the same thing. In E and F, now we get stuff with variables, multiple things here. We kind of want to have an approach here. So I'm going to show you kind of two different ways here in E. Do what works for you. One way is to simplify everything so that there are no negative exponents, and then simplify from there. So if I look, I have the 3 to the 1st, that doesn't change. I have x to the negative 2. It's on the top, it's a negative exponent, so it moves it to the bottom. That would be x squared. The y stays on top, y to the 1st, z to the negative 4th, that's going to go to the bottom. 4, that's a negative exponent, moves it to the top.
Gabrielle, Becker to the office.
The
Gabrielle,
x
Becker to the office.
is a positive, it stays where it is. Y to the negative 5th, it's a negative, it moves it to the top. Z to the negative 1, that moves it to the top as well. So I'm going to simplify here. 3 times 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. 16 and 3 is 48. The y's I'm going to put together and get y to the 6th, z to the 1st. On the bottom, I'm going to put my x's together, x to the 3rd and z to the 4th here. And now I'm just going to look to simplify from here. I have 1 z on top, 4 on the bottom. Where do I have more z's on the bottom? How many more? 3. So that's one way to do it. Another way is if you want to deal with the negative exponents. So I have 3 and 4 to the negative 2. Okay, the negative is going to move it to the top here. So I'm going to have 3 times 4 to the negative 2. But I'm going to look at my x's then. I have x, negative 2, and to the 1. So negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3.
Can I please go talk to Miss Combs? Yeah, I was supposed to talk to her before break ended, but I was gone. Thank you.
I'm going to subtract my y's as well, and I'm going to subtract my x's. I get y to the 6, z to the negative 3. At this point now, I'm going to do my simplified. If it's a negative exponent, it moves it to the bottom. So x to the negative 3 would move to the bottom. Y to the 6, that stays on top. Z to the negative 3, that would move to the bottom. And I had to put the same thing. 48 on top, 4 squared is 16, 16 and 3 is 48. Y to the 6, x to the 3rd, z to the 3rd. Again, your choice here. In F, in this one I have a negative 3 as the exponent. For me, I'm going to put that in right away, and then I'm going to do my simplifying. So I get 3 to the negative 3rd, x to the 6th, y to the negative 12th, z to the negative 3. 4 to the negative 3, x to the 15th, and y to the 6th. So if I'm looking at this, the negative exponents, those are going to flip, so I'm going to have 4 to the 3rd on top, 3 to the 3rd on the bottom. Now if I look at my x's, I have 6 on top, I have 15 on the bottom. Okay, there are what? 9 then on the bottom, so I'm going to have x to the 9th on the bottom. And then if I look at my y's, well, I have negative 12, y to the negative 12. That's going to move it to the bottom. So how many do I really have on the bottom then? If I have 12 on the bottom and I have 6 on the bottom, the y's, I'm going to have y to the 18th. And the last one, my z's. I have z to the negative 3. That's going to move to the bottom. So I'm going to have z to the 3rd on the bottom here. Whenever we simplify things, we want to have exponents that are non-negative here. So all of your exponents should be non-negative. So that would be as simplified as you would need it. If you wanted to write 4 cubed is 64 and 3 cubed is 27, that would be fine too.